Now, you two, I had to write your names down here, Tyne Daly and Sharon Gless, because the temptation to call you Mary Beth and Christine is just too great. And Tyne, you were on board from the outset. How did you see Mary Beth when you first read a script?
When I first read the script, I thought, I've done my cop. I'd played a cop with Clint Eastwood. And I thought, no thanks, these are fields I've already plowed. And then my agent said to me, read it again. And when I read it again and found out that she was married and had kids and that it was a more complex situation than I thought, I was very interested in doing it. But I just thought there's a lot of corners, there's a lot of nuances possible if it's going to be a serious situation. Before that, it was a movie with Loretta Swit. Loretta backed my casting, which was very gracious of her. She was a big fat star in well, not so fat, she was actually quite lovely, in MASH. And it was a good part. It's a real good part for a movie of the week. That was all it was going to be. And then after we made some spectacular ratings numbers, the network reversed itself and said they want a series. And I believe Barney said, I don't have Swit and I don't have Daly, so what do we do now? So I signed on and we went in search of a new Cagney. The two Barbaras and Barney said that they'd always thought it was Sharon. And Sharon had been busy in another series. So then it was Sharon.
And Sharon, what did you make of Christine when you first encountered her?
I was afraid you were going to ask me that because you had asked. I don't. My introduction to the series was checkered in a way. It had been sent to me at one time, and I had just done a pilot where I played a cop with a male partner, and it didn't sell, and I didn't want to play my career to be one where I'm packing a rod, if that means carrying a gun in America. Then Barney came again to present the show, and I was doing another series. And then the third time, I had other dreams for myself because I'd done so many series. That was my background as opposed to Tyne's, which was primarily theater. I thought, well, I want to do other things. And as Barney has often mentioned, actors aren't always the best judges of material. So we met, and my manager at the time encouraged me that this would be a very good move. My first impression with Christine is she is totally different from this woman in every sense of the word. And my love for this character grew as I started playing her. Tyne said, before we do the read-through for everybody, Tyne very nicely said, come over, let's read it. We read it a few times. And I started listening to her voice and listening to her play her character. I started to get mine. So it's not that I fell in love with the character because she was single, or Tyne got instantly her character about the mother and the children and handling the job and everything. And I didn't instantly quite know who Christine was until I started playing her.
Yeah.
We heard a reference in the clip that we just heard. The word that was used was a magic that existed between you. How did that develop? Or was it there right from the start, or did it come as you worked together?
If I can jump in on this one. I don't know the answer to that question, except that people call it chemistry. And I've never thought that actors can take credit for chemistry. The person who thought to put you together can take credit for it. I don't even know. We liked each other very much. And Tyne was, I have to tell you, the most generous actor I have ever worked with in my lifetime. But the magic, I don't know if we can, I remember there being pictures being taken of us, our very first photo session. And my manager was there standing in the back, checking it out. And she came over to me and she said, "You don't know what I'm saying, but there's such chemistry between the two of you that it is palpable." And I don't think we knew it.
Would you agree with her?
Well, I flunked chemistry. So I don't know anything about chemistry. But fortunately, I did not flunk magic. I think that we liked each other as people initially, and then we really worked at it. There was a sensibility that the way you handle actors who have no brains, of course, and especially not actresses, that divide and conquer was the answer. That if you kept them apart from each other and got them fighting with each other, that was the way to control them on the job. And I think Sharon and I decided mutually from the beginning that we would present the United Front, that if we were playing partners, we had to behave as partners in the work. And it was a concerted effort to say, if we're going to play these women and they're going to love each other, then we've got to work on this relationship off the set. You know.
Barney, some of the most important things about this series was the way in which social issues were handled. Social issues sounds very serious. You always managed to make it entertaining as well as important. Mm-hmm. But what determined the way in which those issues would be handled, whether it was date rape or abortion? Did that come from you, or did that come from the writers?
Well, there's two answers to the question. I mean, first of all, the fundamental...
There's the true one, and then there's the Hollywood one.
There's the fundamental liberal bias was mine. And we always came from that. There was an idea to try to be on if we could, to present both sides of an issue. But if you got to something like a woman's right to choose, in America at that time, 70% of the working women were in favor of a woman's right to choose. And there was no way that either Cagney, even with her strict Catholic upbringing, or Lacey, who was then visibly pregnant when we did the issue about it, there was no way that they were going to betray the working women of America by being even-handed about the issue. That all came from me. There was the other example of what came from me, and that same kind of liberal thing. When Lacey contracted breast cancer, we had taken a position throughout the series that women in the positions of power, judges, and doctors, other people of political import, would be played by women in the show. In this case, the writers had written that because that was always the bias of the show. And I said, no, I want a male to play the part. And I want the least attractive member of the Screen Actors Guild to play it. I don't want it to be Dr. Kildare. I don't want it to be something romanticized. A lot of women are going to see this and be influenced, and I don't want them to say, well, I don't have a doctor like that in my town. I don't want them to have an easy cop-out. I want them to see that it's as homely as it can be. This is what we're going to do.
Except you have to, honestly, I mean, we're watching these things from these big dramas and stuff. You mustn't forget that there were those episodes where we had to dress up as vegetables and be on a game show. There were a couple of big clunkers. But then again, it's a lot of product in a very short time.
You were a tomato, I was a pineapple.
That's right.
You held us regardless of what you did. But, you know, when I said that my son remembered us calling Dad Harv because, you know, we were a family doing exactly, I wasn't a cop, but we were, you know, doing the work and the home thing. How much consciously, Barney, did you think we've got to have not a new man, as people were, you know, degrading the new man, but a real man who was really taking part in looking after his family?
Couldn't have been a more conscious decision. I mean, we realized he was sort of an idealized guy, but we were very, very, very careful with that character. I remember, you know, you're always, sometimes you jump, as they say in Hollywood, jump the shark a little bit. You know, we were doing some goofy episodes, but mostly we didn't. My job, really, I consider to be one of quality control, of maintaining a certain balance in the series. So the writers might come to me, as they did once, and say, we're going to have Harvey Lacey is going to have an affair. And I'd say, why? What's what are you talking about? Well, we need to have something going on in that house. There's not enough going on. And I said, let me tell you about conflict in that household. Mary Beth wants to make a will, and Harvey doesn't. That's a conflict. You know, that's all we need to do. You don't need to give him an affair. You know, we didn't need to go to hyperdrama. I wasn't.
Plus, if you had, he would have been dead the next week.
Life's armed
And
and
then, you know,
dangerous,
we
yeah,
didn't want to
yeah,
fire him, he was
yeah,
too
yeah.
good an actor.
So it was, but it was very, very conscious to keep all that going.
Just to go back to the question of serious social issues and entertainment, how did you keep that going for such a long time of never, ever boring us? Barney.
Well, you know, we did it all kinds of ways. We did it with an all-male writing staff. We did it with an almost all-female writing staff. We did it with 7 people. We did it with 3 people. The bottom line was, whenever we did, it boiled down basically to the instructions we would give, like for instance, to a director. Put the camera at eye level and get out of the way. The 2 women will look at each other and tell the truth. And that is why, if you take the trouble, not just to look at this stuff, which are obviously highlights that were selected because they made a point, but I'm telling you, you can look at any episode. The show holds up.
Except for the vegetables.
You have to get past the fact they don't have a cell phone or a computer, you know? The episodes would only be 40 minutes long instead of 60 minutes long, you know, they're shorter. But but once you get past that, which is very, I think, easy to do, the costumes are pretty straightforward. They don't specify any particular period. The automobile is nondescript. And what comes through, the good news is what comes through is the reality of it, the fact that things haven't changed that much, that these 2 women tell the truth. The bad news is that things haven't changed that much. The fact is that still those issues still remain for women in the workplace. They still remain for women in our society. But it was, it permeated our thinking all the time. We had a license to do something, and we acknowledged. No one ever said it's only television in our company.